Thanks for downloading the Swearing In Podcast, where you'll hear the origin stories of those who chose to serve. So ground your gear, take a seat, and listen up. The Swearing In Podcast starts right now.
Heads up! Welcome to the Swearing In Podcast. I am your host, Marty Smith. Former Air Force Buck Sergeant Marianne Smith is my guest today. Marianne grew up in Oscoda, Michigan, and joined the Air Force in 1984. She attended tech school at Chanute Air Force Base, Illinois, as a 32551 Avionics Instrument Systems Specialist. Her first assignment was to Fairchild Air Force Base, Washington, where she was one of the few females to be on flight line maintenance. She later cross-trained to Manpower, then exited the Air Force in 1995. Now that you know a little bit about Sergeant Smith, let's get on with the interview.
Joining me today is former Buck Sergeant Marianne Smith of the United States Air Force. Marianne, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.
And you're the first woman I've had on the podcast, so you have that wonderful mark for you. So tell me where you grew up. You grew up in Michigan, right?
I did. I grew up in Michigan.
What part of Michigan?
Oscoda, Michigan.
What part of the hand is that?
Yeah, so it's right there, which is on the Lake Huron side of the state, and Wurtsmith Air Force Base was in my town.
What was the town?
Oscoda, Michigan.
I can't say it.
You can't say Oscoda, Michigan?
Oscoda?
Oscoda. Yeah.
So you got all the lake effect snow and miserable winters in, right?
We did. They said were in the banana belt, but...
Banana belt?
Yeah, I don't know why, but something about the equator. But
really?
Yeah, but we had heavy snows and everything.
And what kind of, do you remember what kind of Air Force base that was?
Yeah, it was a SAC base.
Oh, so
they were B-52s and KC-135s.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Were they up on maneuvers all the time, right?
They were. And when the B-52 broke the
sound barrier?
Yes, exactly. It would.
I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah, they did. It would make a big boom, and my parents owned a motel that was built out of concrete block, cinder block, and it would actually crack.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it was pretty serious.
They had to have a lot of complaints to the base commander, like, tell them to knock it off.
Yeah.
You're wrecking our house.
Yeah, but my parents got a lot of the, when the Thunderbirds came in and they would stay at the motel. So since they had a contract with the base, they didn't complain too much.
Did you get to see those air shows and all that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, those are awesome. They don't even hardly do them anymore.
No.
So you graduated.
I did graduate.
Well, I didn't mean to make it sound that way. I was leading into something else, but that pause was bad. So, but you graduated and you found your way towards Ohio, right?
Yeah, that was.
But by way of, you stopped in one more place before Ohio?
Oh, no. So after high school, got married to a GI from
that military man.
Wurtsmith, yeah. Finished my 2-year degree, and he got out. We went to Ohio.
He got out of the military?
Yeah, he was from Ohio. So when he got out, we went down to Ohio.
Yeah.
And then when we split up, I went back to Oscoda and hung out there for a little while. Yeah.
All right.
Then my travels began. Stayed there about 6 months and headed to Illinois
Illinois.
Yeah, with another GI. And he got transferred to Chanute Air Force Base.
Which comes into play later, right?
It does come into play later.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd never heard about Chanute Air Force Base. And now in the last month and a half, I've had 2 interviews where both of you are talking about Chanute Air Force Base.
Yeah, it was, I worked at the NCO club. Actually, I worked at the Officers Club
even
at
better.
Chanute Air Force Base. So, yeah.
Nice. Wait, when did you graduate? What time period are we talking about here?
High school?
Yeah.
1978.
Okay. So you went to, you're working outside Chanute. What year are we talking about now?
About 1983.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then I headed to Oklahoma City from there and worked at Tinker Air Force Base at the NCO Club while I was on delayed enlistment.
You enlisted in the Navy, right?
Yeah, I did. I actually enlisted in the Navy.
And why? Because of the job they wanted you to do?
I talked with a friend's father, and he was retired Air Force, and I needed just some coaching. I knew I wanted to go in the military. I wanted to make the best choice. He suggested that I go in the Navy. His daughter, my friend Robin,
that's right.
had gone in the Navy. He told me the schools were the best. So as soon as I hit Oklahoma City, I called the Navy and met with a recruiter.
No real idea of what the Navy was like or anything like that. You just
nothing more than I knew my dad had been in the Navy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So there was a
little bit of a connection there.
Yeah, exactly.
So what job are they going to put you in?
They were going to put me in crypto maintenance.
Oh yeah. That's right. I forgot you mentioned that.
Yeah. So I had no idea, but it was an electronics career field. So I really wanted to make a change. My degree was in criminal justice. I wanted to be a police officer.
Oh.
And then I decided that that was probably not the smartest thing for me to do, but wanted to kind of change. So when they offered me electronics, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't know what crypto maintenance is, but it sounded
good.
Yeah, it's electronics. Okay.
And that was in 83?
That would have been in 80, probably closer to 84.
God, at that time, I would have never known what any of that stuff was.
Right? No, I had no idea. I just knew I was going to be.
But you had to go, you had to just start fresh somewhere, right? That was the whole idea, right?
Right. I was, I had kind of decided if I couldn't beat them, meaning the military, I was so entwined into these Air Force guys that if I couldn't beat them, I might as well join them. Yeah. So
now the bad thing about that was they put you on a delayed enlistment.
They did 11 months.
11 months. I've never heard of a delayed enlistment that long. That is
I was
nuts.
on delayed enlistment 11 months when I changed.
Oh, you were? It was even longer than that before they were going to take you in?
I think it was.
Oh, my goodness.
So I had already been on delayed enlistment for 11 months with the Navy. Yeah. It was a long time to get into school. Wow.
That's a long time to think and mull it over and change your mind.
Yeah.
Which you did, right?
I did. So I worked on the 3rd floor of a building in downtown Oklahoma City. And on the 2nd floor was the Air Force recruiter's office. So on lunch and breaks, I would go down and kind of just chat with the Air Force recruiters, even though I was already on delayed enlistment. And again, being there, living near Tinker Air Force Base, now my roommate was in the Air Force. She was an electrician, and all our friends were in the Air Force. And
so you were the one non-military person. Hanging out with all of them, right?
Oh, yeah. But I was on delayed enlistment. Right. So I could talk the talk, walk the walk. I knew the lingo and everything.
You're in.
Yeah. So I told the Air Force, I said, you know what? I think I've made a mistake. I think I really want to go in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do. And it took a couple of times going down to his office and talking to him. He's like, I can't tell you to do this. But I'm just going to kind of give you a scenario. If you go to the Navy and tell them that you do not want to go, then you will have to get a discharge from the Navy.
God, that's nuts.
Yeah, I have discharge papers from delayed enlistment.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then once you have your discharge papers, you can come back and see me. Huh. Okay, so that's what I did. I called the Navy. I called my recruiter. He told me it was not the Boy Scouts. I couldn't just quit. And I'm
sure he wasn't too happy with you.
Oh, no. I think I was his bonus, female in electronics. He processed the paperwork. It took a couple of months. Once I had my paperwork, I think it was December of 1984. It must have been December of 1984.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was then on delayed enlistment for another 6 months. Well, not quite 6. So December to May.
Oh, okay.
With the Air Force.
Yeah. So May 85?
Yeah.
Is that when they were like going through MEPS and all that?
No, I did MEPS down in Chicago when I was in Illinois.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, my crazy life. I didn't tell anybody, didn't tell the guy I was living with or anything. I just went down to the MEPS in Chicago, did my MEPS, and I was ready. Wow. Yeah, I'd already taken my ASFAB.
Yeah.
Did my MEPS. Yeah, so I was just ready to go.
Oh, jeez.
But then as far as the swearing in and everything, I did that in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
When I left for the Air Force. Yeah, on the 28th of May, 1985.
Oh, man. And was that one of those deals where they bring you to MEPS, they keep you overnight, and then you're off to San Antonio?
No, you know what? I think because I was so close to San Antonio living in Oklahoma City, they just flew me straight. Like I had to show up.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to show up at the MEPS maybe 6 a.m.
Yeah.
On the 28th, and then they did their MEPS thing, and then they put us on a plane, and so it was, it's not very far. It's just a few hours.
Yeah, lucky you. All these other guys I talked to are like, oh, they bussed us or they drove us or.
No, nobody drove me anywhere. I can't remember. The recruiter may have driven me from the recruiter's office to the MEP station.
Did he give you any tips for basic or anything?
Oh my gosh, my friends, because all my friends were in the Air Force.
Yeah.
They told me it's just a game.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. They're going to yell at you. They're going to do crazy things. It's just a game.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And then they told me, do not volunteer for anything.
Good advice.
Yeah. So I went there going, okay, I won't volunteer and I will not get upset about anything because I know it's just a game.
Yeah.
So plus I'm older,
Yeah, that's
I can deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because at that time you were 24?
Yeah, I was 24.
Yeah.
So I had been away from home and, been on my own.
You've been fairly worldly already.
I was fairly worldly by that point. Yeah. And nothing was going to get in my way.
So you weren't a rope. You weren't a guide on. You weren't anything at basic?
Not at basic training. But what I did do, with reluctance, we were standing in line, I think, for uniforms.
Uh-oh.
And a TI came up and said, who here has played an instrument? Nobody, and none of my friends had told me anything about drum and bugle. And we're all standing there like, he could tell we wanted to raise our hand, but we all knew do not volunteer for anything because all I could think of is we're going to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Going to be KP. We're going to be cleaning pots and pans. No way. So, but he says, no, really, this is for drum and bugle. If you've ever played an instrument, raise your hand. I've got a form for you to fill out. So we filled out the form and, I put down that I'd played the flute for, I don't know, at that point since 5th grade.
Yeah.
So a lot of years I still played after I left high school.
Cool.
I still played. I could read music. So what they did then is they recruited me and a couple other girls for my flight, and we became part of the drum and bugle. Oh. And there were 15 gals and 30 guys in my flight then.
Okay. So so you just did basic with them now from there on out?
Yeah.
Or it wasn't like an additional thing you had to go do?
No, they put us in a different dorm. Yeah. So there were still 45 girls in the dorm, but we were from 3 different, like the times that you would graduate.
Oh, okay. Right.
And they had us in that time frame. So then they matched us up with 30 guys who would then graduate at the same time. Uh-huh. And they were in their dorms and we were in our dorms. So
that became your flight then?
That was my flight was the 15 girls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was cool because instead of doing KP, now we're marching off base on the weekends and being fed.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, we got to go off base and march in the parades.
Really?
Yeah, it was summertime.
So did you go down the Riverwalk and do all that kind of stuff down there?
Wherever they took us. We'd go to some podunks, little towns, places, and then the VFW would feed us,
That's not a bad basic experience.
No, it was great.
Oh, I never heard of anybody who was in the band out there.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. And since I played the flute, they didn't have flutes in drum and bugle, so they put me on a bass drum.
Oh, well, hey, it's still reading music, right?
I read music, yeah. And they'd give me a lot of crap when I'd boom in the wrong place. And, yeah, but, it was all in fun. And
yeah. That's not a bad way to get through basic.
It was great. It was a lot of fun. And having 30 guys and 15 gals,
that's
we couldn't beat that.
So let's back up. I never asked you what you went in under the Air Force. Did they give you a guaranteed job?
Kind of. They guaranteed me open electronics.
Oh, they guaranteed you an area, right?
Yeah, actually, I thought it was open electronics, but it really wasn't. On my sheet then, years later, when I really read it, it said missiles, instrument systems, and something else. I thought I was going into computers. Yeah. And so I was a little bit shocked about being...
So did you have, midway through, did the assignments guy come, or was that at the end?
I can't remember where that was, but while I was at Tinker, I went up to their personnel office and I wrote down all of the AFSCs for the AWACS.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to fly. My friends were all flyers, and they were diddy bops and
Morse code, right?
Yeah, Morse code. They were radar and radio and everything on the AWACS.
That's awesome.
Surveillance. And I thought that would be so cool. So I went up and I took all the FSCs down and I took them with me to basic training. Again, not realizing they already had me assigned to a career field, and I wrote them all down, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to.
None of these are.
I can't remember if I even got to write them down. I was just maybe handed the paper that said I was going into avionics, and
that was disappointing.
Well, it was, yeah.
So you're going into avionics. Where was your tech school at then?
Chanute Air Force
Chanute Air Force Base, my goodness.
Where I'd already been 6 months of my life.
Right. Yeah. God, you had to sit there and go, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, it was awful. I definitely had to suck that one up.
How long was your tech school for?
6 months.
That was going to say, that's a longer one, right?
Yeah. And we had to march in the cold. But not so much drum and bugle. They actually bussed us. Well, they bussed us from the dorms. Oh, I was in drum and bugle in tech school too.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Kind of. Yeah.
Maybe at that point it's kind of wearing out. I don't know.
Well, just as you became more of the senior in drum and bugle, and I was a red rope by that point.
Oh.
And the things that they told us to do was kind of humiliating to our classmates. And being older, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Yeah. I don't agree with this. So I ended up going back, like the last 2 weeks out of a 6-month tech school. I went back to my dorm. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. Took off my rope. Said, I've had it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were disappointed, but
I'm kind of that way. If I don't like something, then
no time like the present. Just get out of it and go.
Yeah.
Are we in 86 yet? Or did you do Christmas there?
I did Christmas at Chanute, and then graduation was February of 86.
Where did you know you were going to? When did the assignments guy come?
Oh my gosh. So during tech school, and they give us this thing called a dream sheet.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the dream sheet?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So I put Florida.
Of course.
I put all the southern states. I wanted to go someplace warm. Having grown up in Michigan, having lived up north my entire life, I was like, I just want to go someplace warm. I've never been to Florida. We didn't travel back then like people do now.
Right.
So anyway, I've got all these southern states here.
Yeah.
And I get my orders and it says Spokane, Washington.
Oh.
I've been out of high school for quite a while. I don't remember my geography. I had to go to the personnel office and look at the big map.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden my map kind of flips over this way. I'm like, they kind of looked at this wrong. They looked at it backwards. They took me from Florida clear up to Spokane. I'm like, where in the heck is Spokane, Washington?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's cold up there.
And wet.
Cold, wet.
And you didn't know that yet. But
well, that's Seattle. Spokane is not.
It's not as bad?
No, but it's cold and it snows and it's, Is
that McCord?
No, it's Fairchild.
Oh, Fairchild.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I almost, because I had lived in Oklahoma City, I talked to a guy in my class and he had orders to tinker and he was willing to change with me. Yeah. But I left too much baggage behind it at tinker. So,
really?
Yeah. So I thought, I better.
Well, tinker winters aren't fun either.
No, they're not bad though. When Oklahoma, it doesn't snow. When it does, the whole city shuts down.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do with it. I'm like, what do you mean you don't drive? And
I remember from being at Fort Sill, you got a lot of ice in Oklahoma.
Could be. I just remember that the locals in Oklahoma didn't drive in it. And I'm like from Michigan. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't drive in this?
Yeah, this is easy.
Yeah. So I opted to keep my orders to Spokane.
Okay. You're up there reporting your base. Do you remember what unit you were with?
92nd OMS.
What's OMS?
Organizational Maintenance Squadron. Okay. They had the B-52s and the KC-135s.
Oh, so you were all part of that whole same unit.
Yeah, and they had just changed it. So instead of having in-shop and flight line all together, they had changed it so there was in-shop or flight line. And I was the first avionics female to get to Fairchild, so they opted to put me on the flight line.
Why are you air quoting that?
Because they could have put me in the in-shop, but they put me on the flight line, which was...
Do you think they did that just so they could say, hey, look at our female out on the flight line?
We've got a female on the flight line. Yeah, it was 1985. There still were not a ton of women on the flight line.
And so they wanted to be able to say... So that female thing didn't work out the best for you at that time.
No, I didn't get to play the female card.
I mean, they got to celebrate you being out on the flight line as you were miserable out on the flight line.
I was miserable. I loved my job. Don't get me wrong. I liked what I did, but boy, in the wintertime, it
flight
was
line's all weather,
awful cold.
Yeah.
and midnights, working the midnight shift. I would wear so many clothes, and not in regulation either. They didn't have good female long underwear and things. So I'd go out and I'd buy myself,
everything was unisex back then, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they made anything specific for
No, and that was awful, long underwear, and it was not even warm. So,
no.
And it had the little fly in the front, Yeah. I'm like, now I'm not a girly girl. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I'm not a girly girl. I was a tomboy in high school.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wanted to kind of be a little bit.
Well,
girly,
you don't want to be a guy either.
I didn't want to be a guy. Yeah. I just wanted to do my job. So, so my underwear was blue.
Did you go buy some?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. I bought
good for you.
My underwear. I bought my socks. I bought everything just so I could stay warm under my uniform,
Because all they give you is wool. Everything is wool.
So going through basic training, they gave us that wool, but I went down and bought regular cotton socks to wear underneath those wool socks because you had to wear those wool socks.
Right.
And the wool socks were fine. My daughter and husband swear by those socks. I'm like,
they do
he's still wearing his green socks. And my daughter wears her green socks all the time.
Those are the most uncomfortable socks I ever put on.
I think so too. When I could get away from those green socks, I certainly did.
Did you have to do those FOD walks?
Oh, yeah.
What is that, foreign object debris?
Yeah. Yeah. Walk the flight line.
How often did you guys have to do that?
Oh my gosh.
Once a week kind of thing?
It was mostly if you're on day shift, they did FOD walks. But so I spent some time on day shift, but when I first got to Fairchild, I think I was on swings for years and I loved that.
Yeah.
Loved swings. So you couldn't do a FOD walk.
So for those like my wife, I always say Susan because she doesn't understand anything I'm referring to. Describe what a FOD walk is.
Well, you line up in a row on the flight line and then you walk down it looking for debris. Anything, could be a rock even, but anything, you pick it up so that when the planes take off and they start their engines and then they take off, that they don't pick up anything that would destroy the engine because they'll suck it in. They will absolutely suck it in to the engine and it'll destroy the.
And that's not a fast walk, right? It's not a wedding march, but it's not a fast walk.
No,
right?
you line up and you just start walking down the runway.
How far do they go?
Gosh, I don't remember.
Obviously not the whole runway because that's like a mile, right?
Yeah, no. And I think it was mostly probably around where they would start the engines.
Oh, okay.
Then they would start the takeoff. So
that still had to be miserable duty.
Well, and that was I can't remember how high of a rank went out there and did the FOD walk. There were enough of us airmen who were pretty much the grunts doing.
Sounds like a great
that.
Punishment duty.
No, yeah. So only if you're on day shift.
Yeah.
Like I said, swing shift and mid shift were much better.
They kind of left you alone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because leadership would go home and then you were just left to whoever's in charge.
Right, right. Mostly then we were just repairing planes.
You remember what your AFSC was? Is that the one? Is that what you were trying to look up?
Yeah, I had to look it up because
And it's probably changed.
I think it has changed because they combined instruments with.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they did. With autopilot, instruments, and I think ComNav, the three.
Oh, okay.
So it was a 32551 Avionics Instruments.
Wow. 32551.
Yeah, so I did leave the flight line as a 5 level.
Oh, nice. When you were at that school, they gave you a couple stripes because of your degree, right?
Yeah, because I had an associate's degree going in.
So you were really an E2 or an E3?
I was an E.
Because I know they've altered those ranks.
I was an E3.
You were?
Yeah, because I was a 2-striper.
Senior Airman was still an E4, but also Buck Sergeant was an E4.
It was a Buck. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So when Was it there that you got that?
No, I had to be in for a period of time before I made.
Okay.
I had to become a senior airman, and then after a little more time, then I became a buck sergeant.
Which means you could supervise people.
Yeah, I could, because they had me go through
like the leadership class.
Yeah, my first leadership class. I have had a roommate while I was at Fairchild who was a B-52 crew chief. And she was quite a character. I think I mentioned.
That's that female you were talking about, right?
Yeah. She went in the Air Force at around 23 also. She was 6 months younger than me. She left for basic training like 4 days before Christmas.
Oh.
She had a 4-year degree. She was a graphic artist, and she just got fed up. The 80s, she couldn't get a job.
Yeah.
She was living at home. Her dad was a retired Army. She said, "Hey, I'm leaving. I'm going in the Air Force. I'm gone."
Boom.
That was it. Yeah. So she went in.
Kind of similar to how you came in too, then.
Well,
you just saw it. You said, "I'm going to do it." And then
she did it much faster than me. Mine was over a few years.
But the decision process was like, "This is what I want to do. I'm going to do it."
Right. Exactly. The only job they had open for her was crew chief.
Oh, yeah.
So she was a B-52 crew chief. And so when I got to Fairchild, I told my dorm chief, I said, "I don't want to be rooming with an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, you better give me somebody who's older." And he did. And
that's how you met?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. He put me in Donna's room. And I don't think I mentioned this before. So I woke up the next morning with my roommate on the telephone.
Uh-huh.
And so Donna, her dad is Hawaiian Filipino.
Okay.
Her mom is German.
Jeez.
Oh, and that's a whole nother story. So she looks very Filipino.
Yeah, right.
She's got dark hair, dark skin.
I saw that picture of her. She had that old Filipino fro on there.
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah. So I wake up and she's speaking German.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, they've put me with a spy.
Yeah, you didn't even know her, right?
I didn't know. I had no idea.
A spy.
I know. I'm looking at her going, who in the heck is my roommate?
Sure, but East Germany back then was still a big thing.
Yeah, she used to hop over to Germany in uniform, and she would have to go through Checkpoint Charlie in uniform.
Wow. Yeah.
To go see her German relatives on the other side.
That's crazy.
She would tell me stories about that, and
that's nuts.
It was pretty crazy. So anyway, during Desert Storm, though, she had gotten out during Grand Rudman also.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, they really messed her over. So they didn't have anything in place for people like they do now.
Yeah.
Single airmen who have an apartment, have a home. They were not giving them BAH.
That sucks.
So she got activated and went to North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
They made her she had to give up her apartment. She had to put things in storage. She was activated just like that.
Wow.
Yeah, she wasn't given much warning. It's like 24 hours, 2 days to get everything packed up.
That's lousy.
Yeah. So she got there, had no compensation for her stuff left behind or anything. And, she ended up, I think maybe what happened to her helped change it for Desert Storm.
Yeah.
Because actually after Desert Storm, because now the military is paid, the single people are paid.
Yeah.
They're given their BAH. They're given all of that. She made such a ruckus and wrote letters to Washington and things like that. Yeah. So she passed away in 2009.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So she can't tell her story.
Yeah.
So I have to give her that opportunity.
Well, good. That's fascinating story.
Oh, yeah. And she was a great roommate. She was we stayed friends.
Oh, did you?
All the way to the end. so I was on a mid shift one night, and I had been reading in the base paper about this job called Manpower and efficiency and effectiveness and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this sounds like such a good job. And I was to the point now where I had been in avionics long enough that I could retrain.
Okay.
So I came off a mid shift, and I'm wearing, do you remember bunny boots?
The overboots?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was I wearing those? Actually, I think I was wearing my Sorels at that time.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. So they gave us Sorels with, I still have them. I wear them when I take the dog for a walk. They have steel toes, because we had to wear steel. Oh, they did?
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
We had to wear steel toes on the flight line.
Yeah.
And I had all my clothes on. I had my park on. I had everything on. And I'm frozen. And I walk over to the Manpower office, and I said, please, I want to retrain.
Oh, that's the perfect time to do it. That's awesome.
And they sat me down after a mid shift and had me take an algebra test. Thank goodness I had taken algebra just before I went in the Air Force. I had taken all the way up through advanced algebra because I wanted to beat it and get it done. So I kind of remembered my algebra enough that I passed the test.
Oh, good.
And they're like, we'll take you.
Oh.
And I'm like,
that was it?
Yeah.
After a mid-shift?
After a mid-shift.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So then I went to Manpower school. Boy, the flight line wasn't too happy with me.
I
don't
bet
know.
not. Yeah.
They weren't too happy with me. But then I went to tech school.
Where was that tech school at?
That was down at Keesler Air Force Base.
Mississippi.
Well,
there's your heat, right?
Oh, it was so beautiful. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Finally, you get back down to something warm.
It was warm. It was nice.
But that couldn't have been too long. What, 6 weeks, maybe? A couple months?
I think it was 2 months.
Yeah. Okay. So now are you going back to Fairchild now?
Yeah, then I go back to Fairchild.
What year was that?
That was 1988.
Wow, 88.
Yeah, 1988.
So now you got, how'd they do your enlistment? Did they re-enlist you?
Yeah, I had to re-enlist for that.
All right.
Yeah, so I re-enlisted for another 4. So no, I didn't. I re-enlisted for 6. I re-enlisted for 6 years.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, the Manpower job set me up for my future. What I learned with that, and a lot of statistical analysis, that's what we did. Yeah, we did the work center descriptions. We were in charge of the numbers for the manning documents.
Oh, I had no idea.
The UMD. Do you remember the UMD? Yeah, I know the
UMDs, yeah.
So the flight line's different, though. That unit manning document was based upon the number of airplanes and how many people you needed. So maintenance was different. Yeah. But I took care of civil engineering was my primary.
Really?
Yeah. So I would go in and do work center descriptions for them. Like my biggest one was doing an asbestos study.
Oh.
So I got to walk through the buildings that they were removing asbestos. Uh-huh. And it was kind of fun. I was in my blues that day because Monday through Friday at that time, we had to wear our blues. And only on Fridays were we allowed to wear our, at that point, BDUs.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I walk over to the hangar that they're mitigating. And they give me these waders. So I put the waders on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Over your blues?
Over my blues, waders, because part of the mitigation is water. So they have to wet it because it's asbestos.
Yeah. Oh, so to keep the particulates in the air down, right?
Yeah. So they use water. So there was a lot of water. So I'm having to walk through and they're having to describe to me how they're doing asbestos mitigation.
Oh,
and I have to write the work center description.
Really?
For asbestos mitigation. And it went up to Air Force and got approved.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea that's how they did it back then.
So, you get the numbers of hours that they do. How much time does it take you? how many people does it take you?
Yeah.
And then you have to put it into your statistical analysis and come up with your numbers. And sometimes it wasn't pretty because we'd show that there was that we needed to reduce manning. And then we'd have to go in and talk to the commanders and advise them why.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to lose manning.
And that was not a pretty...
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was all... It was a great job. I learned a lot. It's been good for like my business degree that I did while I was active duty. Actually, my degree was in marketing, and I did that while I was on active duty.
Yeah. So we'll wrap it up here. If you can tell me, what's the best story you got?
The best story. I know one day my supervisor.
Now it has to be Air Force related story.
This is Air Force.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. One time my supervisor, so I'm in avionics and I'm kind of green. I'm a newbie to the flight line. You know, sometimes they would send new airmen out for flight line, go out and get flight line and bring it back.
Okay.
There's no such thing.
Oh, they sent you out for flight
That's what they would do. They would send airmen out, new airmen.
I got you.
The supervisor.
I wasn't tracking it there for a second.
Yeah, no. Exactly. I need you to go get some flight line. Go to supply and pick up some flight line. And some of them would go for it.
Sure.
So he didn't do that to me. What he did do, we were doing that upgrade training. Yeah. And one of the things was the exhaust gas temperature check. And the EGT was inside the engine of a B-50, well, any of the planes. He happened to choose a B-52, which is an extremely dirty engine compared to like the KC-135.
Oh, is it really? Oh.
It was much dirtier. So he had me suit up in coveralls.
Wow.
Thank goodness he did that. And he said, we're going to go out and do EGT, and you're going to have to climb inside the tailpipe of the airplane to put the tester on the probe.
Okay.
I didn't know any different.
Yeah, I guess it sounds legit to me.
Yeah. So I climbed inside, put the tester on, climbed out. I am a mess.
Oh, no.
I am soot from head to toe.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They laughed at me. I'm like, why are you guys laughing at me? I got it put on. Then he pulls out a long extender.
Yeah.
That you could put the tester on to extend in.
So you didn't have to climb
tailpipe. So you didn't have to climb inside.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
So that was what he got me on.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I've heard from many people who are former flight line guys that the flight line's like a whole different animal out there, aside from all the other jobs in the Air Force. Like things happen on the flight line that don't happen anywhere else. But they also said that sometimes it's one of the closest that they ever were to other people that they were served with, because you're such a tight group,
right?
And and you're out there suffering all together, right? Going through all the same weather, the same maintenance actions, the same long hours, all that kind of stuff. And it's like a lot of camaraderie comes out of the flight line.
Yeah, lots of esprit de corps and camaraderie, but there was also this between specialists, which I was a specialist, and crew chiefs.
Yeah.
There was this like line.
Oh, was it?
And then that's a crew chief job, kind of
really?
thing. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They're at crew chief. Yeah.
So you knew your place.
Well, we weren't always so nice to the crew chiefs. I hate to say that, but we always kind of thought that they were a little below us. And I if there's a crew chief out there, I am so sorry.
They probably know.
My roommate was a crew chief, and she and I just got along so well.
Yeah.
But we did, in the long run, really have to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite thing, though, to do was actually when I got to fly maintenance. So I was on flying status and got to go up with the KC-135s when we couldn't fix the plane on the ground. I went up with the KC-135 and had them try to get the plane to do whatever it was that make it fail. On an airplane, you have multiple systems. So you have the pilot, co-pilot, then you have the nav.
Yeah.
And so they could still fly the plane, even if the pilot had an HSI problem, the co-pilot could still see.
But you had to force those issues to happen, right?
And they would go up and try to force it to break.
Yeah.
Right? Because we would have an intermittent problem on the ground. And so if it broke, then I could watch to see what it was doing.
Okay.
So that when we got back to the ground, I had seen it.
Yeah.
And we could look to see what transmitter, or if it was a break in the wire, if it was a transmitter, how to go about.
Sure.
And it probably wasn't a transmitter because we would have changed that out. Or when we changed out the transmitter, did it fix it because we couldn't get it to duplicate on the ground?
How did you get into flying status?
I asked.
So you were on the flight line, but your job also was available to be on the plane itself.
When they needed somebody, a maintenance person, it was when I was on days. When they needed a maintenance person, then they would let me know, and then they would put me on the manifest.
So it was occasional.
I think. Yeah, put me on the manifest for that flight that day.
Yeah.
And then I would fly with the plane. It was so cool.
But you love to fly, right?
Oh, yeah. It was so cool. Got to see what they call St. Elmo's fire.
Oh, yeah?
That's when at least this is what they told me. It's when you're in the cockpit and the windshield just kind of lights up.
Really?
Yeah. There's static in the air or something like that. And it just kind of...
Oh, that's fascinating.
Oh, yeah. It was really cool. Yeah. Huh. Took a couple hops, got to ride back with the boom operators.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. That was so cool. Laying in the boom pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get to see an actual refueling or no?
Oh, I've got pictures of it. Yeah. On the fighters, you could see their helmets and their glasses.
Oh, yeah.
We refueled fighters, a C5. Oh my gosh. The C5 was it just felt like it was all right there. You couldn't see anything around it. It was so big, and it's 30 feet from you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
yeah.
We don't give the pilots enough credit.
Oh
for
my gosh.
Flying in those formations.
No.
So.
And I had the headsets on, so I'm hearing, and the coordination between the boom operator and the pilot, keeping air speeds.
Yeah. Yeah.
At certain, and then you've got the navigator too, but you've got them at keeping the right,
basically like the right angle on it, right?
Yeah. Angle, speed, elevation, the whole bit, so that then they coordinate it with the plane behind at the right speed, because otherwise if they're too fast,
sure,
they could send that boom through their windshield.
Oh, God.
Right?
We've made it, or at least the military has made it so commonplace that we do that. But man, the amount of things that can go wrong if you're trying to refuel, especially if one alters speed or distance or any of that stuff.
Right.
That's
it's
nuts.
Pretty fascinating to be up there with them and having them connect, refuel, and then also to break away.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And then a fighter would break and then...
Oh, sure.
Do that kind of thing.
Just to show off.
Well, I don't know. It's probably a part of the refueling.
But it does
to
look
get
cool,
back
right?
and get away.
Yeah.
But the big planes don't do that. So
no, they just kind of lumber backwards and then fly off. Huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Oh, it was so much fun. I love that. Made the cold nights worth it.
Was it cold up there?
The planes are cold. Yeah. They're not like a commercial plane. Right. They do have a heater, and you have to carry oxygen if you're at a certain altitude.
Oh.
I had to go through the altitude chamber and things like that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah, because if you have rapid decompression or anything during that time, you have to know what to do. But you always carry your oxygen, and they could put the heat on, but you'd put, like if you took your lunch up with you, you'd put it over behind next to the skin of the airplane, but behind the insulation, the padding.
Yeah.
And everything would stay cold.
Oh, jeez. Is that the best thing you did? That flying style stuff?
I mean, that was pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
I always figured there's not too many people that ever got to fly in a military aircraft.
True.
And there's not too many people who got to be in the tailpipe of a B-52. So,
Were you black from head to toe?
I was black from head to toe. Yeah. I wish somebody should have taken a picture of it. It was
no kidding. They should have taken one. Definitely.
Yeah. They got me. They got me good.
How'd we do? Did we cover everything?
I think we've got it all.
Former Buck Sergeant Marianne Smith, thank you for your time today and your story.
Thank you. It was fun.
On behalf of Air Force Buck Sergeant Marianne Smith, I'd like to thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please leave a like or a comment and share the podcast with someone else. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more service origin stories. So until next time, out time. Woo!